Hi, and welcome to part 3 in this video workshop series on building reporting extensions for EBS using CS Report for non-developers. So in this session, we're going to take a report that we'd created on the previous session and we're going to finesse it slightly. We're going to make it perhaps a little more user-friendly by tweaking some of the items or the fields that contain the data on this particular report. Let's get started by opening up the CS Report Designer IDE. Rather than change the report that we've already built, let's make a copy of it. So we simply click the copy button to do this, give our new report a name, WK103 for Workshop Series 1 Part 3, change the title appropriately as well, click OK, compile and test. So this is a carbon copy of what was built on the previous session. Now all we want to do in this particular case is finesse this particular report a little, perhaps make it more user-friendly. We don't need it to be as wide as it is. Some of the fields are just not needed, such as invoice ID, vendor ID and various other fields. We're also going to tweak some of the item labels and the widths a little bit. So first thing we're going to do is remove all of the fields that we don't need to see. Close that down, go into the items window. First we want to remove is the invoice ID. All we need to do to hide a field is simply untick the visible checkbox. For vendor ID, do the same, untick visible. Let's just scroll through the items. Invoice type lookup code, we don't need to see that because invoice type shows us that. Payment status flag, we don't need to see that because payment status shows us that. And finally, PO count, we don't need to see that because all the matching purchase orders are displayed in the PO numbers field. Let's make that invisible. So let's just see our progress so far. So save, compile, test. So as we can see now, all the internal IDs have been removed. Pretty simple, straightforward. So let's go ahead now and tweak some of the labels and adjust the widths. Again, just to make it perhaps a little bit more user-friendly. Close that down, open the items window. So invoice num, we're going to change that to be invoice no, and we'll make that 9 wide. Description will change the width to be 18 wide. Vendor ID is now hidden. Vendor num, change that to be vendor no, and we'll make that 8 wide. Vendor name, we'll make that 18 wide. Invoice amount, so the auto-generated label for this particular item has been truncated, so we'll just put the T back on the end. Amount paid can stay as it is. Source, we'll make that 16 wide. Type lookup code is hidden. Invoice type, we'll change that to be type and make that 7 wide. Payment status flag is hidden. Payment status, we'll change that to be, let's say, 7 wide. Terms name can just be terms, and we'll shrink that down to 16. PO numbers, we'll make that all uppercase, so it's PO numbers in uppercase, and we'll make that 12 wide, and PO count is hidden. And that's it. All of our changes complete, so save, close that down, compile, and then test. So here we go. This is our completed report. So as we can see, it's no longer scrollable left or right. It all fits nicely within the screen, and we can see all of the fields have been amended accordingly. So we've got vendor no, invoice no, all the widths have been adjusted. Now we can see here that we've got payment status. The label for payment status bleeds into the terms a little bit. So let's go ahead and adjust that. We can either make the payment status field wider or adjust the label slightly. I think in this case I'm going to adjust the label. So close that down, go into the items window, scroll down to payment status, and I'm just going to change this to be, let's say, pay status. That'll do. Save, close, compile, test, and there we go, our completed report. So all super simple and straightforward. Hopefully you can join me for part 4, where we'll be looking at CS Report projects and solution groups. Thank you.